She's not just mean, she's downright terrifying. From cruel pranks to attempted murder, Mrs. Robinson has become the Amazing World of Gumball's most hated character. And trust me, the more you see, the worse it gets. She's not misunderstood. She's not tragic, she's just plain evil. Mrs. Robinson doesn't ease her way into the world of Elmore, she explodes into it, literally launching Gumball into the air during her very first scene. It happens in The Debt. Gumball jumps onto the front of the Robinsons' car, thanking Mr. Robinson for saving his life.
I just didn't run you over. Now get out of my way!
No way! I am not leaving your side until I have saved your life in return.
But instead of yelling or threatening to call his parents, Mrs. Robinson pops the hood. Gumball is flung sky high like a rag doll. She doesn't flinch. No apology. Just immediate, unprovoked aggression. That's our introduction to Margaret Robinson. From the start, she's not just another cranky cartoon neighbor. She's mean in a way that feels deliberate. Her hatred for kids isn't just a running joke. It's her entire personality. She doesn't tolerate Gumball and Darwin. She actively wants them gone, and it doesn't stop there. Later in the same episode, Mr. Robinson gets his moment to shine. After Gumball becomes obsessed with repaying him for accidentally saving his life, Darwin and Aeneas think of a plan to help Gumball save Mr. Robinson.
What can we do to help him? I got an idea.
He writes a heartfelt song. He performs it in front of the judges. Everyone loves it.
My dad, rock on, dude! I wanna be free!
Mrs. Robinson? She shows up to the performance just to see him bomb. She sits there, arms crossed, ready to be smug. But when she sees the audience actually enjoying the song and Mr. Robinson genuinely smiling, her face drops. She doesn't say a word. No congratulations. No good job. She just scowls, turns around, and drives away in silence. That's when it hits you. She's not just cold, she's cruel. She doesn't just ignore joy, she resents it. In later episodes like The Car, she leans into her role as a domestic saboteur. When Gumball and Darwin accidentally shoot a ball into the Robinsons' backyard, she's the first to back a revenge plot. No hesitation, no second thoughts.
Hi, Mr. Robinson! Wow, what did they do? We were playing in our yard.
Your ball fell into my garden, causing my wife's hair to fall off.
She seems genuinely excited by the idea of getting back at the Wattersons. From the very beginning, Mrs. Robinson isn't a misunderstood villain or a lovable curmudgeon. She's a force of negativity wrapped in floral print blouses. And everyone in Elmore, especially Gumball and Darwin, knows to steer clear. Her first appearance plants the seed of what becomes her core trait: spite. Mrs. Robinson doesn't just dislike others, she takes pleasure in their suffering. Her rage isn't comedic, it's malicious. Still, during these early seasons, fans gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's just cranky, maybe the boys are annoying her, but that goodwill would vanish fast. Because as the show goes on, Mrs. Robinson doesn't stay a grumpy old neighbor. She turns into something way darker. If there was ever a moment when the Amazing World of Gumball officially gave up on the idea of redeeming Mrs. Robinson, it's this one. In The Wicked, she doesn't just prove she's mean, she proves she's malicious. The episode starts off deceptively innocent. Mrs. Robinson is in the park, feeding squirrels. Cute, right? But as Gumball and Darwin approach, something's off. She's not just tossing out nuts. She's mixing them with coffee grounds. Seconds later, the squirrels go completely berserk, chasing everyone in sight. Mrs. Robinson watches with a smirk as the park descends into chaos.
You're scoring me for winter!
Cut to Gumball and Darwin picking up trash from the mess. Darwin, ever the optimist, insists that deep down there has to be some good in her. Gumball doesn't buy it. He knows what they saw wasn't an accident. It was a setup.
Surface evil. She's more evil than that. She's heart so dark that it's a black hole evil. Wall Street evil.
And then we get the montage. Mrs. Robinson launches into a musical number about how evil she is. As she sings, we see her stealing groceries, bullying a child, setting a bus stop on fire, knocking over signs, and just generally ruining Elmore. The whole town suffers while she dances and smiles through it all. It's over the top, sure, but the message is clear. She doesn't just dislike people. She delights in making them miserable. Still, Darwin can't let it go. He believes there must be something redeemable in her, so they make it their mission to find it. Their first attempt? Faking a power outage in the hospital. This way, they convince Mrs. Robinson to go to the hospital, and then try to sweet-talk her into showing compassion. But instead of being moved, she swaps the ID tags of 2 newborn babies, starting a brawl between their parents. As chaos erupts behind her, she just smiles and walks off. This is who she really is. After the hospital chaos, Gumball is officially done. But Darwin, he's still holding on. He sets up one last test, a fake emergency. He pretends to choke, hoping that this life or death moment will finally bring out a shred of empathy in Mrs. Robinson. Instead, she sees the chocolate egg he's choking on, eats it, finds a tiny toy car inside, and throws it directly into Darwin's mouth. And that's when the choking actually starts. Gumball yells for help. Darwin's gasping. Mrs. Robinson walks inside calmly, pauses at the door, looks back at them pleading for help, and smiles before slamming the door shut in their faces. No panic, no hesitation, just joy. This scene isn't subtle. It isn't played for laughs. It's a character moment that shuts the door, literally and symbolically, on any chance of redemption. The show doesn't try to soften her, doesn't flash back to a sad childhood, doesn't give her a moment of doubt. It simply confirms what fans had suspected all along. Mrs. Robinson isn't a product of hardship. She's a villain because she likes being one, and that's what makes this episode so important. The Wicked doesn't just show her being mean. It shows the intent behind it, the careful planning, the pleasure she gets from other people's misery. She's not chaotic evil, she's calculated. The real turning point, though, is Darwin. By the end of the episode, even he gives up. The kid who believes in the good in everyone finally looks at Mrs. Robinson and admits there's nothing there. She's just wicked. No twist, no redemption. Just a fade out on one of Elmore's most dangerous residents doing what she does best, smiling as the world burns around her. And after this episode, her story ends with silence. She isn't seen again in any meaningful way. It's as if the writers made their point and walked away. Mrs. Robinson wasn't a background gag. She was a statement, and once the message was clear, they left her exactly where she belonged, behind a closed door. After The Wicked, Mrs. Robinson disappears from the show. No redemption, no closure, no maybe she turned things around. That episode is her final real moment. And it's brutal. She poisons squirrels, terrorizes Elmore in a musical number, switches baby name tags to start a brawl, and leaves Darwin choking while she smiles and shuts the door. There's no lesson learned, no hint of change. She walks away satisfied, and that's the last we see of her in any meaningful way. And that absence? It says everything. In Gumball, almost every character gets their turn to grow. Gumball learns humility. Darwin wrestles with emotional maturity. Even villains like Rob get entire arcs exploring their pain and loneliness. But Mrs. Robinson, the writers didn't even try. They didn't tease a comeback. They didn't give her one last scene to explain herself. They just let her vanish. That might seem like lazy writing until you realize how intentional it is. Because by the time The Wicked aired, the message was clear. Mrs. Robinson isn't a tragic figure. She's not misunderstood. She's not deep. She's the rare character in Elmore who refuses to change, and the show knew there was nothing left to say.
Hey, you can't fight here! Why doesn't she understand?
You can feel that shift in tone. In earlier episodes, her cruelty had comedic framing, launching Gumball off a car hood, dark but still kind of funny. But by season 4, the humor is gone. It's just discomfort. Even Darwin, the most forgiving, soft-hearted character in the entire show, gives up trying to find good in her. She's the one person he can't save. And so, Gumball quietly removes her. No drama, no finale, just silence. Because sometimes, the scariest villains aren't the ones who get redemption arcs. They're the ones who never wanted one in the first place. The silence around Mrs. Robinson isn't just a lack of screen time, it's storytelling by absence. When you watch Gumball closely, you'll notice something.
Those nuts are coated in coffee!
Every recurring character, no matter how weird or flawed, gets a chance to be human. Tina Rex has insecurities. Principal Brown has nervous breakdowns. Even Banana Joe gets soft, bizarre moments that make him oddly lovable. But Mrs. Robinson? She's the only one the show outright abandons. And that's what makes her so terrifying. The fact that she never returns isn't a mistake. It's a message. She doesn't get a last laugh or a final meltdown. She just vanishes after The Wicked, as if even the writers realized there was nothing left to explore.
Look, first day of school.
Yeah, probably the last for a few others.
Christmas! Santa! I don't want to see anymore.
She was already a complete character, one defined not by complexity, but by how completely uncomplicated her evil is. There's no middle ground with her, no layers to peel back, no cracks in the armor, and that's what separates her from every other antagonist in Elmore. Rob wanted to be loved. Miss Simeon craved control. Even Banana Barbara was just misunderstood. But Mrs. Robinson? She had power and she used it to make people miserable. That was enough for her. So the show doesn't try to force a lesson. It doesn't give her a family flashback or a deep monologue. Instead, it lets her final act speak for itself. She leaves Darwin to choke, walks inside, and closes the door. That's it. And somehow, that's more haunting than any dramatic villain exit. It's a quiet end to a loud character. A final statement that sometimes the only way to deal with truly toxic people is to cut them out completely. No redemption, no comeback, just silence. And in a show that's filled with second chances, that silence is the loudest thing the series ever said about her. Mrs. Robinson isn't just hated in the world of the Amazing World of Gumball, she's one of the most universally despised characters across the entire fan base. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yep, any minute now. Aha! Oh. Thanks.
On Reddit, the conversation is relentless. Threads titled things like, "Who's the worst character in Gumball?" almost always get the same top response. Mrs. Robinson, no contest. It's not even a debate. Users call her evil, vindictive, genuinely scary, and even irredeemable. One popular post flat out says, "Margaret Robinson is just straight up evil now." And it's filled with replies agreeing that her treatment of Mr. Robinson and the kids crosses into emotional abuse territory. She doesn't even get the kind of ironic love that other Gumball antagonists receive. Miss Simeon, hated but at least funny. Rob, a tragic villain. But Mrs. Robinson? Fans describe her as someone they'd avoid in real life. Not because she's weird, but because she's dangerous. Over on YouTube, clips from The Wicked get bombarded with comments pointing out how cold and terrifying she is.
How can you enjoy this? You're messing with people's lives. And one of these days, all these...
On the official Cartoon Network channel, videos like "Why is Mrs. Robinson so mean?" or "The Wicked Mrs. Robinson" are filled with people recounting the baby switch, the squirrel chaos, and of course the moment she lets Darwin choke. One of the most upvoted comments reads, "She's not even funny, she's just evil." Another says, "You know a character is bad when not even the main character can joke about it." And then there's TikTok, where she's become a meme, just not in the flattering way. Users edit her scenes with horror music. They add red filters, flashing text like "toxic neighbor alert," and captions like, "If Mrs. Robinson was your grandma, you'd be in therapy by age 5. Some edits even reference real-life trauma, using her as a metaphor for people's worst childhood experiences. She doesn't get fan art, she doesn't get sympathy, she gets survival memes. What makes the hatred so unique is how consistent it is. Most characters in long-running shows develop a split reputation. Some love, some hate, some "they grew on me." Not Mrs. Robinson. The consensus is almost unanimous. And that includes how other characters in the show treat her. Fans often point out how even the citizens of Elmore are clearly afraid of her. Gumball and Darwin tiptoe around her house. Neighbors avoid her. And Mr. Robinson? He spends most of their marriage looking defeated, emotionally checked out, or straight up miserable. These aren't cartoon exaggerations. They mirror real toxic dynamics, and viewers pick up on that immediately. In the Gumball subreddit, one thread titled "Miss Simeon versus Mrs. Robinson," "Who's worse?" quickly devolves into a pile-on against Mrs. Robinson. Multiple fans agree that Simeon is mean, but at least she has a job and structure. Mrs. Robinson, "She's cruel for fun," one commenter says. Another puts it simply, "She's not a character. She's a warning sign." Even people who usually love villain characters draw the line here. On YouTube, fan analysis videos usually try to explore a character's deeper meaning. But with Mrs. Robinson, the analysis often becomes a roast. Titles like "Why Everyone Hates Mrs. Robinson" or "Gumball's Most Evil Character" don't hold back. And they don't need to. Her actions speak for themselves. Then there's the TikTok comment sections. Scroll through any clip of Mrs. Robinson and you'll find people trauma dumping. "She reminds me of my neighbor growing up. This is why I don't talk to my grandma anymore." It's intense, and honestly, it makes sense, because Mrs. Robinson doesn't feel like a character designed to be loved or even laughed at. She feels like someone pulled from real life. The person who always made you feel small, the one who smiled when you struggled, the one nobody wanted to confront, so they just endured her. And that's why fans don't just dislike her, they fear her. Not for what she is on screen, but for what she reminds them of. Mrs. Robinson might be Elmore's most hated face, but what about the characters who stole everyone's hearts? If you want to see the full range of chaos and love in Gumball, Check out our ranking of the most loved and most hated characters next.